Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com. Welcome to the daily futures market outlook for tomorrow's trading, being the 15th of the month. Hopefully everyone had a pretty good trading day today. I know there was a lot of volatility with some of the news causing some spikes and things that, well, got the markets awake, I guess, for lack of better words. Before we jump on in, as always, swing it over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. From there, you'll be able to register for our email newsletter list, so you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out, along with the video itself. Inside the email, we talk about all kinds of different things, stocks, crypto. If it's moving, it'll show up inside there at some point, so it's really good to get your hands on so you don't miss anything ever again. Of course, if you haven't done so already, make sure to go through and click on the Live Trade Room subscription and trial info, where you can sign up for a free 3-day trial in the Live Trade Room with us so you can get your feet a little bit wet and see what we're all about and see how we approach trading throughout the day. Even on crazy days like today, or sometimes the really slow ones, it's still interesting to kind of see the inner workings and how we approach everything. So jumping on in here, I think it's pretty obvious that the euro has had a nice lift higher. This is the follow through that we were talking about from before. We wanted to see the buyers really show up right around here, and with follow through here and here, it made it even more and more and more apparent that the buyers were slamming the market, and now we have a really good follow through lift. Price objectives really for the buyers trying to come in here are looking for any areas that previously held any type of structure. If we look backward a little bit, we can see these previous swing highs. We had the high closes, high opens. We also had a retest. And when they came back, they had a really hard failure there. So it would not be a surprise at all to find a good level of resistance coming along that same spot. And that at the moment is 25,290. So the upside objective right now for the euro is continuation for the buyers up to 25,290, and then maybe even a little bit further through. Again, don't forget, we do have a potential falling wedge coming not too far away. And honestly, they both kind of stack up on one another right now. If it gets there in the next 4 to 8 hours, well, this candle only has an hour and a half left on it, but the next 5.5 hours worth of time, we might see those levels stack up on one another. That would create a situation of a lot of profit taking, not necessarily sellers to slam the market down, but buyers leaning off the gas pedal a little bit, and that could cause a little bit of a pause. So in the overnight session, looking for bullish continuation to the upside to complete that objective to 25,290. Over on gold, we have a strong breakout to the upside. Originally, we were looking at this bear channel and we were thinking, okay, well, they overdid it here, and they're probably going to overdo it here. When I said overdo it there, I wasn't necessarily thinking this, but we do have a good bull breakout, of course, on the backs of the complete miss of the CPI and the retail sales. But all in all, technicals still really held true. We had a nice bounce of the buy zone. They overdid the lows of the channel. We're anticipating an overdone move on the highs of the channel. And along with that, look at that phenomenal level of support and resistance around 27.5. It broke above it after holding it, finally broke through, acted as support. Even on that huge news whip, still ended up acting as support and rocketing to the upside. Now, with such a huge bull candle, we're obviously leaving a lot of traders in the dust. There's going to be a lot of sellers who probably tried selling the highs of the channel. They're now left holding a bag. We have a lot of buyers who bought above this who are looking to take some profit. So that basically creates a scenario where sellers are trying to sell more to defend their position and bring the market back down so they can get out at break even, or maybe even plus a little bit. And we have buyers who could be potentially defending on a pullback, but not many buyers that are going to want to buy above that. Primary objectives are going to be back to the swing high. Well, there's not a whole lot of room anymore. They overdid quite a bit of that movement already, so chances are if we do break above this current candle, it's not going to go very far. I think we need a pullback inside of this. Now, are we going to pull all the way back to around 39, which is, really where I would love to see price coming back to 39.5. Are we going to get all of that in the next candle? Probably not. We're likely more so going to stagnate for a little while, maybe a trap low and then continuation up, but I'm not anticipating a full pullback. Although I would love to see 39.5, chances are we're not really going to see that type of pattern. So looking for a bullish continuation to the upside, but anticipating that over the next several candles here, we're probably not going to get a whole lot done, mostly just back and forth, buying low, and selling out once it gets back to the highs with some profit targets. On crude oil had one heck of a reversal to the upside. The news came out really as expected, actually a little bit better than the forecast. They were forecasting around 3 million on the build side. It came out at 1.8. So overall, everything from the news perspective of crude oil landed pretty bullish, but not necessarily this bullish. I think this is also kind of punctuated by the fact that everything else caught a really big reversal up as well. When that 8:30 news came around, we saw the S&P drop in a matter of 5 minutes. The S&P dropped 50 points, or almost 50 points. We saw those huge moves across all of the index markets, and that wasn't just the index markets. Obviously, currencies and all of that caught a big move, but even oil caught a big spike to the downside before finding a reversal back up again. And that news seems to just kind of be using not only the early morning news at 8:30, but also the inventories as sort of a catalyst for a slightly larger lift than I think they would normally be able to achieve. That said, we are rounding into an area of resistance coming across those highs here. Every time the market has come into this area, we have found a good amount of resistance and support from the other side. So if the buyers are going to take this higher, and this is a pretty big bar to follow up, they're going to have to do some proving. Want to see them break above this area with some distance, not just a small little candle close or anything like that. I mean, we're talking some distance here where we actually get a nice breakout above and then pull back and use it from an area of support or resistance. Right now, we're still maintaining that 59.07 longer term support, which is holding true. And the objective for the buyers who are buying into a move like this, we were talking about how this is a longer term potential even options play. Rotating back up towards the highs, looking for an upside objective. Those buyers haven't gone anywhere. They haven't had any reason to be scared. Every time it's tried to come down, it's failed, it's failed, it's failed over and over and over again. And now we have a trap on that most intermediate low and a huge bull spike up on the inventories. It looks pretty good, like the buyers might be trying to get this back up to at least reattempt. I think objectively reattempt probably the earlier pausing zone at around 61.50. If we can get a little more continuation above that, then retesting that previous swing low support and resistance level at 62.85, and then from there back up to 64.91 and potentially even further. But we're talking weeks on something like that. Maybe. The volatility definitely picked up. It could be sooner than later, but we are seeing a good amount of support coming off at 59.07 and a very strong bull response. Likely any intercandle pullback is going to get snapped right back up as well. Even though we are in an area of resistance, I still think the buyers are going to want to give it a shot off of this area. So I'm looking more for the bull side in the overnight. And then the index markets. Man alive, the index markets were all over the place today. We had a huge spike down. Again, early morning news at 8:30, we had the CPI and retail sales completely miss. Both of them were off by about 0.5, which is huge. And it caused this just monster dump to the downside. The S&P sank about 50 points. We saw the Dow, I think 200 or 300 ticks there. I mean, it was just a huge move across the board. Everything was affected by that. And really, what we're looking at now is a complete reversal off of that. If we look at the grand scheme of things on a bigger candle time frame, we see that big bear spike down, and then it ends up closing halfway up and immediately bullish reversal back higher. I still am a little bit more on the bear-weighted side, even though we do have a couple things fundamentally going on, like crazy news causing some super huge spikes. But for the most part, we're still not in an area of interest. We're nearing it, right? 27.03.5 is that range high area. And even though we, on the intraday chart, we had a big spike down and then just took it all back for the rest of the day, we're now nearing an area of resistance that the sellers could just be looking to kind of fake out. So we had an immediate sell push down into a fake out back to the highs, and now that could have just been the entire way up. Sellers just accumulating the move for a range high fade back down. So I'm still not convinced on the bull side, even though today was a very bullish day, from like a 5-minute chart. On the 4-hour chart, we're really not seeing that conviction. We're still stuck inside the range here. So in the overnight, I'm looking for a test at 27.03.5 and then looking for some resistance off of that level to try to push the market back down. Not saying that that's going to be the top of the move, but very likely going to find some resistance across 3.5 for a push back. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Wild markets today. I know for myself, I did a lot of sitting on hands today. A lot of the trades required just monstrous risk, and either you've got a big account that you can trade and build into it, or you got to look at a day like today as it might be better if I just sit on hands and let the market do its thing. Even some of the smaller risk opportunities that we found never ended up filling us. It never pulled back and never got in. So it was a lot of sitting on hands today, but interesting to watch nonetheless. Now, if you're watching the afternoon session, there were some definite nice opportunities to pick up with the bull trend on the index markets. But aside from that, morning session was pretty choppy, all things considered. So fingers crossed we get a little bit more not volatile, but a little more consistent movement, I think would be the best way to put it going into tomorrow's trading. But aside from that, that's the game plan. So like we always say, it doesn't matter what market you're trading and what market you're looking at, you always want to make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see you all then.